Somewhere on this planet right now, someone is lying awake listening to something nobody else in the house can hear. They've checked outside. They've cut the power. They've seen doctors. And the sound is still there. Low, constant, felt more in the chest than the ears. This has been happening for decades, in dozens of countries, to thousands of people, and science has never fully explained it. In May 1991, a woman named Katania Saltzman woke up in the middle of the night in her home 8 miles south of Taos, New Mexico, to a sound she couldn't place. Low, grinding, relentless, like a diesel truck idling just beyond the tree line, except there was no truck. There was no road. There was nothing outside but the high desert dark, and from somewhere beneath it, that sound. She told her husband, Bob. He couldn't hear it. She told her neighbors. They couldn't hear it either. So she did the only thing left. She wrote a letter to the local newspaper. The moment it hit the stands, the Taos News was buried in phone calls. Dozens of residents, then hundreds, all of them hearing the same thing, all of them quietly losing their minds over a vibration nobody could explain and no instrument could consistently detect. By 1993, enough residents had suffered long enough. They petitioned their congressional representative, New Mexico's Bill Richardson, for a formal investigation. Congress responded. A team of 12 researchers assembled from Los Alamos National Laboratory, Sandia National Laboratories, Phillips Air Force Research Laboratory, and the University of New Mexico. They arrived with millions of dollars in equipment. They set up their most sensitive instruments in the Saltzman's own bedroom. Their report, published August 23, 1993, delivered one conclusion. Something was happening. The investigators were certain of that. What was causing it, they could not say. The source was nowhere they could find. What unsettled them most wasn't the failure. It was a detail buried in the report. Taos was not unique. Calls were flooding in from Wisconsin, Michigan, Vermont, and Maryland, all describing the same invisible, undetectable, bone-deep vibration. Bristol, England. Starting around 1976, hundreds of residents reported a persistent low-frequency rumble with no traceable source. By 1980, Bristol City Council had logged over 100 formal complaints. Environmental officers arrived with monitoring equipment. They recorded nothing. And then one day, without explanation, the Bristol hum simply stopped. Windsor, Ontario. Starting in 2011, thousands of Canadians living across the river from Detroit reported a pulsating vibration strong enough to rattle glassware in kitchen cupboards. One night in early 2012, 22,000 calls flooded Windsor's town hall, every one of them describing the same thing. A government-funded investigation eventually traced the source to U.S. Steel's blast furnaces on nearby Zug Island, Michigan. The Windsor hum didn't stop until those furnaces went permanently cold in April 2020. It vanished the same day. 3 countries, 3 separate cases, the same invisible, equipment-defeating, sanity-shredding frequency. And now something has changed. Reports that climbed for decades have begun declining across multiple regions simultaneously. For years, people begged for it to stop. Now, in place after place, it has. And the people who spent years trying to escape it are the first ones saying something feels wrong. If you value stories like this, built on real research, real sources, and hours of human effort, not recycled AI noise, consider subscribing. It's a small action, but it helps us keep digging, keep verifying, and keep bringing you the kind of stories that actually deserve to be told. In the spring of 2012, Glenn McPherson, a physics and mathematics teacher on British Columbia's Sunshine Coast, a man who had spent years lecturing at the University of British Columbia, started hearing something he couldn't explain. He thought it was float planes. The noise started around 10 or 11 at night and didn't fade the way planes do. One night he stepped outside. Nothing. He cut power to the entire house. The sound got louder. For someone who had built his life on evidence, this made no sense, and it would not let him sleep. So he did what scientists do. He started building a database. The World Hum Map and Database Project, founded by McPherson in late 2012, has now logged over 17,000 individual reports from every inhabited continent on Earth. When you plot those reports on a map, the pattern is not random. The hum pools in specific geographic pockets, coastal basins, geological valleys, regions underlaid by particular compositions of deep rock, as if the Earth is broadcasting selectively, choosing its victims by address. Some people didn't hear it, but their bodies did. Dr. Mariana Alves Pereira is a biomedical researcher at Lusofona University in Lisbon, Portugal, who has spent over 3 decades studying the physiological effects of infrasound, frequencies below 20 Hz, the lower boundary of normal human hearing. Her research, conducted across occupational and environmental exposure groups, describes a condition she terms vibroacoustic disease, studied extensively, though not yet universally accepted by mainstream medical bodies. The pathology involves abnormal thickening of the pericardium, the membrane surrounding the heart, along with structural changes in lung tissue and progressive neurological deterioration. Initially identified in aircraft technicians exposed to prolonged engine vibration, it has since been documented in members of the general public, in children. Critically, none of these effects require the victim to consciously hear anything at all. The body absorbs the frequency, whether the ears register it or not. This reframes the 2% figure from Taos entirely. The assumption was that only 2% of the population was affected. The more disturbing reading is that only 2% was consciously aware. The rest were absorbing it in silence, their bodies registering what their minds never recognized. In Windsor, physicians documented measurable spikes in sleep disorder diagnoses, anxiety prescriptions, and hypertension cases in neighborhoods closest to the hum zones, years before residents had formally named the vibration as a shared phenomenon. The bodies knew, the minds took longer. And then there are the brain scans. Studies of self-identified hum sufferers show their temporal lobes, the brain's primary sound processing region, registering activity in response to a stimulus that the instruments sitting in the same room could not detect. Brain activity where no measurable signal existed. Which means the question was never whether the hum was real. The question is what's producing it, and why it has started quietly and across multiple regions at once to stop. Here is something they never taught you in school. The Earth is already humming, right now. Beneath the building you're in, beneath the street outside, beneath every ocean floor on the planet, the Earth generates a continuous low-frequency vibration that has no off switch and no beginning anyone can name. In 1998, seismologist Naoki Suda of Nagoya University in Japan published the first confirmed detection of this in the journal Science, evidence that the entire planet pulses at frequencies between 2 and 7 MHz, driven by ocean waves colliding with the seafloor, producing standing waves that move through the crust like a bell that never stops ringing. In 2004, Barbara Romanowitz and Junki Rai at the University of California, Berkeley confirmed the oceanic mechanism in precise detail. The ground beneath every bedroom where a sleepless victim has lain staring at the ceiling has been doing this since before any of them were born. You are sitting inside it right now. The difference is, most people never notice it, but some do. And for those people, something is turning the Earth's inaudible murmur into something that breaks them. Researchers have two leading theories about what that something is. Neither has been proven conclusively. Both are terrifying. The first centers on infrastructure, specifically the underground kind. Steve Colhays is a mechanical engineer from Brookfield, Connecticut, who spent a decade and over $30,000 of his own money investigating the hum that invaded his home in 2009. Across every case he documented, the pattern held. The affected locations sat along or in close proximity to high-pressure natural gas pipelines. At operating pressures exceeding 1,000 pounds per square inch, pipeline walls oscillate at frequencies that fall squarely within the infrasonic range. Buried underground, those vibrations don't scatter the way sound in open air does. They channel directly into surrounding soil and bedrock, sometimes traveling 30 or 40 kilometers, delivering concentrated infrasonic energy to communities that have no industrial source visible anywhere within sight. The cause arrives at your wall without announcing itself. It has been traveling underground for miles. If you're standing in your kitchen right now and something feels slightly indefinably wrong, you wouldn't know where it was coming from either. Pipelines explain some clusters. They don't explain all of them. So researchers looked deeper, into the land itself. The second proposed mechanism involves decommissioned mine shafts, flooded limestone cavities, abandoned quarries. Any large subsurface void exposed to shifting atmospheric pressure may behave acoustically like the body of a musical instrument, resonating at frequencies determined by its dimensions, its depth, the density of surrounding rock. Scotland's documented historical mine network contains hundreds of partially flooded workings sitting beneath populated communities. The theory holds that when North Atlantic storm systems drive barometric pressures sharply downward, those subterranean chambers respond like organ pipes, exhaling infrasonic tones upward into the streets and bedrooms above. The Earth itself may be the machine. And in 2023, researchers watching the data in real time were seeing numbers that had only ever climbed reverse course across multiple regions within the same narrow window. And definitely not in one place. Not one of them had an explanation they were willing to say out loud. In March 2023, residents of Brighton and Hove on England's East Sussex coast began reporting something that would sound instantly familiar to anyone who had lived through Taos or Windsor. A low, persistent drone. Felt more than heard. Worse at night. Louder indoors than out. A vibration that rattled no windows, triggered no instruments, and yet sat inside the chests of thousands of people like something with a pulse. Within weeks of the first reports, a community blog tracking the phenomenon was logging entries from across the city, Preston Park, Dyke Road, the Hove seafront, all describing it the same way. A diesel engine that was never there, a generator that couldn't be found, a frequency that lived in the body and not the air. One resident wrote that they could feel it in their molars before they could name it as a sound. A retired school teacher from Hove documented 53 consecutive nights of broken sleep before she stopped keeping the diary. Not because the hum stopped, because she ran out of ways to describe it. Environmental investigators came. They found nothing. Brighton and Hove sits in a shallow coastal basin, flanked by the South Downs to the north and the English Channel to the south, a near textbook example of what acoustic researchers call an inversion trap. On still, cold nights, dense air pools at low elevation beneath warmer air above, forming a thermal boundary layer that behaves for low-frequency sound waves like a physical ceiling. Infrasonic energy generated below, from pressurized infrastructure, from distant industrial sources, from the resonance of chalk geology underfoot, doesn't rise and dissipate into open atmosphere. It bounces. It concentrates. A vibration that would be undetectable in open terrain becomes, inside and sealed inversion basin, something the human nervous system simply cannot tune out. The body has no mechanism for ignoring it. It processes the frequency as threat and stays on alert around the clock without relief. This is the mechanism connecting Brighton in 2023 to Taos in 1991 to Bristol in 1976. Not the same source, the same trap. The documented physiological toll is consistent across every major case in the record. Dr. Mariana Alves Paredes' research shows chronic low-frequency exposure disrupts deep slow-wave sleep, the restorative stage the brain needs to regulate memory and stress hormones. Cortisol levels climb. In the most severely affected subjects across multiple documented infrasound studies, cardiac arrhythmias cluster during peak vibration hours. Unexplained nosebleeds appear with no anatomical cause. The body doesn't need to consciously register any sound for any of this to happen. It absorbs the frequency and responds accordingly, hour after hour, night after night, until the cumulative damage begins to show up in blood work and cardiac monitors and the dark circles under eyes that haven't properly closed in months. Brighton hum reports continued through 2024 and into 2025. Residents documented flare-up periods, stretches of quiet, and returns, the characteristic rhythm of appearance and disappearance that defines every major case in the global record. No official cause was ever identified. And then, in a pattern now repeated across Taos, Bristol, Windsor, and communities in 6 countries, it began, slowly and without explanation, to fade. The researchers watching the data didn't celebrate, because in every previous case, the fade wasn't an ending. It was the part just before everything got quiet enough to hear something else. There is something audiologists have documented in patients subjected to prolonged abnormal sound stimulation. The brain, in its drive to adapt, begins treating the intrusion as its new baseline, as the updated definition of quiet. The auditory cortex reorganizes itself around the invader. Threshold filters shift. What started as an assault becomes, neurologically speaking, normal. And when it stops, when the hum vanishes overnight, the brain does not reset. It keeps sending signals into the acoustic environment, searching for a frequency that is no longer there, the way a tongue keeps finding the gap where a tooth used to be. Former sufferers in Taos described the weeks after the hum's disappearance not as relief, but as a new wrongness, a pressure where sound should be, a silence that had grown an edge. That's not poetry. That's how auditory plasticity works. Dr. Joseph Rauschecker, a neuroscientist at Georgetown University who has spent 35 years studying auditory cortex plasticity and the brain mechanisms underlying chronic phantom sound, the same mechanisms responsible for tinnitus, has documented how sustained exposure to an anomalous signal causes measurable structural change in the brain's sound processing architecture. The temporal lobe reorganizes, threshold filters recalibrate. Remove the signal and the brain does not return to where it was. It keeps searching. In tinnitus patients, this produces phantom ringing. In hum sufferers, the parallel process produces something harder to name, a quality of silence that no longer feels like silence, a stillness that registers as wrong in a way the conscious mind struggles to articulate, but the body recognizes instantly every quiet night without fail. At some point, people stopped asking if it was real. They started asking why it was leaving. The hum does not merely visit, it rewrites, and when it leaves, it takes something with it. Glenn McPherson's World Hum Map and Database, the most comprehensive global record of the phenomenon in existence, with over 17,000 documented cases, registered something without precedent in the project's history. Some researchers began observing a decline in submission rates across multiple regions simultaneously, not in one country and not concentrated in any single cluster either. Reports fell away from Europe, North America, coastal Asia, and Australia within the same general window, as if dozens of separate, unconnected sources had quietly shifted in the same direction without coordinating. No single industrial explanation accounts for a multi-regional reduction at the same time. No weather pattern, no seismic cycle, no known infrastructure event operates at that scale simultaneously. The researchers who have given careers to this problem are, in their careful and measured language, at a loss. What they will say on the record is this: something in the global low-frequency acoustic environment has shifted. The relationship between subsurface pressure, atmospheric layering, and the transmission of infrasonic energy through the Earth's crust has changed at a scale that exceeds any local explanation. What caused it, they cannot say. Whether it is finished, they cannot say. What the former sufferers say is simpler and more unsettling than any data. They say the silence doesn't feel like an ending, it feels like held breath, like the moment between a door swinging open and whatever is standing on the other side deciding whether to step through. They are waiting. They don't know what for, but every one of them, in that deep, wordless place where the body knows things before the mind catches up, is certain they won't be waiting long.